This is a gorilla. Your folks are both gorillas. You are a gorilla.
They propose revisions that always seem to involve less respect for the rights of free nations and less freedom for the individual. These matters would be difficult under any circumstances. They are further complicated by a trend in Western countries away from global engagement and democratic confidence. Parts of Europe have developed an identity crisis. We have seen insolvency, economic stagnation, youth unemployment, anger about immigration, resurgent ethno-nationalism, and deep questions about the meaning and durability of the European Union. America is not immune from these trends. In recent decades, public confidence in our institutions has declined. Our governing class has often been paralyzed. The American dream of upward mobility seems out of reach for some who feel left behind in a changing economy. Bigotry seems emboldened. Politics seems more vulnerable to conspiracy theories and outright fabrication.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
Is there a secret handshake? Is there a secret code?
I wish there were something secret I could manifest.
322, a secret number?
There are all kinds of secrets.
Now, as you may know, my running mate, Tim, is Catholic and went to Jesuit schools. And one of the things he and I have talked about is this idea from the Jesuits of the Magus, the more, the better.
Hello, everybody. This is Brett. Today is Saturday, March 31st, 2018. And we are here to read another chapter of Codeword Barbelon. And today we're in chapter 28, Rome and the American Civil War, a Jesuit coup d'etat. And Jörg Glissman is with me from Belgium. Jörg?
Yes, I'm with you. I hope you can hear me.
I sure can.
I mean, my voice is like if I've been to a rock concert yesterday night and screamed my lungs out all night, but I can assure you I wasn't.
Right.
I wasn't bad, and I was coughing, and my nose slipped closed, and I couldn't breathe through my nose, and everything got dried out, and my all the slime that you actually normally have in your gorge and everything was dry, and then this morning I woke up with this voice, and I said, well, okay, that's maybe sexy, but that's not my voice.
No, jeez.
Anyway, our listeners will have a memorable recording of this because I don't think there are many recordings out on YouTube where you can hear me with this kind of voice.
Oh, no, I don't think so. I've never heard your voice this bad before, brother.
Well, now I know what Tom is talking about. He often comes to the table on Saturday when we have our Bible study, like we will have in a few hours again.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
And he often comes to the table and he says, I have laryngitis and this and that, and I don't know if my voice keeps up. This voice never sounded as bad as my voice sounds right now.
Oh, no, that's right. I'm surprised you even want to do a recording, Jörg.
Yeah, absolutely, because my motivation is not less to bring out the truth, Brett.
Okay.
And
well, here we go.
It is not every day that you and I both have the time at the same moment to come together. People should remember we are thousands of miles separated from each other.
That's right.
We are 7 hours separated in time.
Yeah.
Because of the different time zones in this world.
Yep.
I have now a few minutes past 4 in the afternoon, and with Brett it is just the time to get up a few minutes after 9 on a Saturday morning. So
yeah, and I stayed up editing all last night, and I was just really getting into it, Jörg. And all of a sudden I look at the time, it's like, oh, it's 2 a.m. I think it's time to get to sleep.
That happened with me too, brother, when I did some videos in the past.
I'm sure it happens all the time, because you're making videos all the time.
Yeah, but I've never made videos of that importance, not importance, but that kind of technical features that you do.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's a little more advanced with the editor that I have.
But when I go to the computer and I listen to my MP3 and I have an hour and a half to do, and I really put my mind to it, I want to put the right pictures at the right moment, like with all the videos I did with Romanism and the Reformation.
Oh, yeah, those are really good.
I always took the text and pictures then when Tom was speaking and all that stuff. And that was really, really fulfilling for myself.
Oh, yeah,
but that, of course,
those
took some
really
time.
good. Yes.
And when you're doing those things, you don't even have the time to watch at the time. I mean, I didn't even care about the time. I just don't care. I want to finish that because it is so interesting what Tom has to say. So I hope that the people will hold on and that you can push up the volume a little bit so that the people can understand it a little bit better. So they will just have to deal with a fancy voice, but not with a small, with a low volume, so that you can push it up a little. And we will deal today about, as you said already, chapter 28, Codeword Barbelon, Danger in the Vatican, Rome, and the American Civil War, a Jesuit coup d'etat. Abraham Lincoln did a quote that is probably here somewhere in, that he said that the American Civil War would not even have been possible without the sinister workings of the Jesuit order.
That's right.
Something like that.
Yes.
I think we will probably come across that quote during the reading. It should surprise me if we don't. But anyway, anybody can understand that right now. We are saying that from the start already. So what does that make the American Civil War? It makes the American Civil War that what all the Jesuit-led wars are. It makes them a crusade for the Pope. It makes them a religious war. And the Americans are just there to believe that this war had to happen because of quote-unquote slavery. As if in the North they didn't have slaves. I mean, Charles Carroll and Daniel Carroll, they were great slave owners. Yeah. George Washington was a big slave owner.
Right.
He lived in Maryland. That's in the north of the country, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
that's right.
Don't come to me with that BS that slaves were only in the South.
That's right.
And the slave trade. Brett, also maybe something we have to mention in the beginning of this reading. The slave trade was from beginning to end in the hands of the Jesuits. It were their ships that transported the slaves from Black Africa to the United States of America and everywhere else where they traded slaves. The slave trade was always in the hands of the Jesuits. Yeah?
That's right.
So, of course, this war would not have been possible without the sinister working of the Jesuit order. We're going to start with another quote by Abraham Lincoln, who says, "A friend is one who has the same enemies you have."
That's right, Abraham. Yeah.
This quote from Abraham is only as long true as you don't have a friend who is a Jesuit.
Oh, yeah.
Because he gives up himself for everything and anything. He will even play the open foe to your enemy, and in secret he is together with him and sworn to defeat you.
That's right.
And if Abraham Lincoln didn't see that, well, that is a little bit the problem why he acted in the Civil War the way he did. I'm not judging on Abraham Lincoln. He was surely one of the greatest American presidents that ever lived. I mean, when you, from a Christian standpoint, can speak about any president being a good man, I think with all that I've read and understood by the reading of Charles Chiniquy, 50 Years in the Church of Rome, and I haven't read that book completely, of course, but with all the excerpts that I've known from there, I know that Abraham Lincoln was a man of God, of God's providence. He maybe was not a fundamentalist Protestant like you and I are, but he had his heart on the right place. And what I find the most disgusting, Brett, is that after his death, they built this Lincoln Memorial in Washington, and they placed him on a throne where he has his arms leaning on fasci and making it a Roman symbol, if Abraham Lincoln was a Jesuit or Pope, or a puppet from the Pope from the beginning. And that's something that I find really a big shame of. And most Americans don't even care, because when they go to that Lincoln Memorial, they see Lincoln, but they have no idea what fascists are.
Yeah, that's right.
They just don't understand
agree.
that.
Yeah, you're right.
But this is the way how the Jesuits make the history to say what they wanted to say.
Mhm.
They even use their enemies and put them on a pedestal, like they did with Abraham Lincoln. Now you say, why was Abraham Lincoln an enemy of the Jesuits? Well, the Jesuits killed Abraham Lincoln. When you only know the official story of John Wilkes Booth, who pulled the trigger, then you're maybe not familiar with that. But John Wilkes Booth was only a willing puppet in the hands of the Surratt family. Most of all, John Surratt and his mother, Mary Surratt. Mary Surratt was hanged in the afterworkings of the Lincoln assassination. And John Surratt, they found after he fled via Canada and England to Italy, and they found him in the Vatican.
That's right.
Dressed in the garments of a Swiss guard to protect the Pope. And they still got him to America, and then they brought him to trial. But the Jesuits made sure that they had the judge, the attorney, and the prosecutor and his attorney. That they had them all in the bags, and within a few days he was even released. He was not even sentenced for anything, for any part in the conspiracy of killing Abraham Lincoln. Okay, but maybe we should start in the beginning, Brett, and I should just start reading. But I think the information that I just gave us, for some people who have not studied these things as deep as we do, has maybe been interesting. And also, let me tell you something other. I find it is quite funny that I, as a European, teach Americans about their own history here.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah.
I'm just saying that with all meekness, you know.
Sure.
It's just because the American history is so interesting, and because the American history is so intertwined with the Bible and with Catholic history.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I study
that's
Catholics because I, as a Protestant, have to know who my enemy is. And by that, I don't say that Americans are my enemy, but
No.
the American government is my enemy as much
sure.
as it's your enemy. You
Yep.
are living over there in the United States of America.
Yep.
So, okay, there's another quote from Cardinal Spellman, you know, the one who was responsible for the Vietnam War.
Mm-hmm.
In America and Rome, Time magazine, Monday, 25th of February, 1946, he stated, America in Rome. And there's a wonderful book out that anybody who has some time over should get from Justin Fulton, Washington and the Lap of Rome. And you should read that, for example, to understand how Washington and Rome are interconnected. When he says here, America and Rome, I always think back to the very first chapter of Rulers of Evil, where we have this, I think the chapter is called Subliminal Rome, where we understand what Washington and Rome all have in common. They are both from a swamp area. Washington was named in the 1663 land records in the United States. Rome, the river Potomac today, is called the Tiber in that time. And Rome and Washington are sister cities. So they have an official connection as sister cities. Yeah? And of course, when you look to the capital of Rome and you look to St. Peter's Dome, you think something's wrong with your eyes because you think you see double. But you don't. They're both a temple of Jupiter.
Yep.
Okay? But let's continue now. Of course, only if you don't have any comments up to now here, Brett.
Please, go ahead.
Okay. A nobler object could not engage the attention of the American people than an impartial and honest investigation into the causes of their civil war. Yet, a survey in 2007 revealed that 83% of American college seniors and 80% of college freshmen didn't know the difference between the American Civil War and the American Civil Rights Movement. There are two histories of the United States, particularly when it comes to the American Civil War. The history conveniently taught in schools and colleges emphasizes the internal tensions between the northern and southern states, asserting that the flashpoint for the first shots at Fort Sumter on April 12, 1861, was the decision by Lincoln to end American slavery, which, according to John Wesley, was, quote, the vilest in the whole world, unquote. But the other history, the real causes of both wars, is simply not told. Americans have had their history fed to them via television and Hollywood in simple and dramatic portraits, gore and glory, with clear and definite villains and heroes. Yeah, just think of this almost 4-hour epoch, Gone with the Wind.
Yeah,
that plays about the Civil War. That has nothing to do with the world, how it really went. And that movie was made only 70 years after the Civil War ended.
Yeah. I think that movie was pretty stupid. I never really watched it. I never really watched it.
It was one of the biggest cash cows of the Hollywood industry in the beginning.
Oh, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And that Fox network, that 20th Century Fox, that published that movie, that was founded by a loan from the Jesuit-led Bank of Italy, which later changed its name to the Bank of America.
Bank of America, that's right. Yeah, Bank of Italy.
And this is one of the first movies they put out, and I think that movie is from 1938 or something in that time.
Right.
So this is only about 70 years after the finishing of the Civil War, and then putting out a movie like that with all the glamour and glamorizing the war. That's what Hollywood does. Right. Hollywood glamorizes war. Hollywood glamorizes death.
They do. Yes, they do. Yep, and they make a ton of money at it too. It's sick.
Yeah, because people are so stupid to give them their money voluntarily to watch this garbage.
Yeah, you're right. Yep.
So the nuanced, shadowy, and often very sinister forces at work in their history are almost completely left out. Hollywood and the television producers perpetuate this travesty. And thus, when it comes to the important details of the two most significant segments of America's history, the great majority of Americans are completely ignorant, abysmally ignorant even. Yeah. And Brett, I can't help but to make a little comment here. We know that the movie industry is completely in the controlling hands of the Roman Catholic Church. And it's not only the movie industry of Hollywood, it's the movie industry all over the world. It is the television industry all over the world. It is the newspaper industry all over the world. It is the radio stations all over the world, because we know of Miranda Prosos and Inter Mirifica, the two papal encyclicals that state that it is the inherent right of the Roman Catholic Church to own and use all media.
Yes.
And that's why when you turn to media like the ones that I've just mentioned, you will always engage in learning what the enemy wants to tell you. So you're always listening to the enemy and never listening to your friend.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
And who's the friend that you should listen to? Well, pick up a 1611 King James Bible and try if you can find your friend in there. I found mine.
Yeah, me too. That's right.
American historians have neglected documents of monumental importance. The official records of the Union Confederate navies in the War of the Rebellion, a source of the greatest relevance, revealing conclusively the true motives and guiding hand behind the American Civil War. In 1816, 2 years after the restoration of the Jesuits by Pope Pius VII, that is, ex-President John Adams wrote to former President Thomas Jefferson, who lived between 1743 and 1826 and became the third U.S. president after Adams. He wrote in a letter, quote, I do not like the resurrection of the Jesuits. They have a general now in Russia, in correspondence with the Jesuits in the United States, who are more numerous than anybody knows. Shall we not have swarms of them here, in as many disguises as only a king of the gypsies can assume, dressed as painters, publishers, writers, and schoolmasters, perhaps as presidents too? I have lately read Pascal's letter over again. That's Blaise Pascal, by the way, and 4 volumes of the history of Jesuits. If ever any congregation of men could merit eternal perdition on earth and in hell, it is this company of Loyolas. Unquote. Let the American who cares to know the motive force behind the cause of their bloody civil war consider the intriguing words of Pope Pius IX in a letter to Jefferson Davis, the president of the Southern Rebellion. That letter of December 3rd, 1863 is reproduced. And this is interesting and blowing your mind if you've never heard this before. Pope Pius IX wrote to Jefferson Davis, quote, "Illustrious and honorable sir, greeting. We have lately received with all kindness, as was meet, the gentleman sent by your excellency, i.e. Davis' envoy, to present to us your letter dated on the 23rd of last September. We have received certainly no small pleasure in learning, both from these gentlemen and from your letter, the feelings of gratification and of a very warm appreciation which you, illustrious and honorable sir, were moved when you first had knowledge, written in October of the preceding year to the venerable brethren John, Archbishop of New York, and John, Archbishop of New Orleans, in which we again and again urged and exhorted those venerable brethren that because of their exemplary piety and episcopal zeal, they should employ their most earnest efforts, in our name also, in order that the fatal civil war which had arisen in the states should end. Oh, that the other people also of the states and their rulers, i.e. President Lincoln's government, considering seriously how cruel and how deplorable it is this internecine war, would receive and embrace the counsels of peace and tranquility. And we also pray the same most merciful Lord, that he will illumine your excellency with the light of his divine grace and unite you with ourselves in perfect charity." Unquote. We also pray the same most merciful Lord, that he will illumine your excellency with the light of his divine grace and unite you with ourselves in perfect charity. Now, if this is not Pope speak, then I don't know what is.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
At first blush, this letter from Antichrist Pope Pius IX seems quite innocuous, but it is as benign as it appears. But it is not as benign as it appears. Note that on the one hand, Antichrist Pope Pius IX addresses Jefferson Davis as Your Excellency, and with the title Illustrious and Honorable Jefferson Davis, President of the Confederate States of America. So the Pope considered the rebellious Jeff Davis to be the legitimate President of the Confederate States of America, while on the other hand, he refers to Abraham Lincoln, the legitimately elected President, and his cabinet merely as the other people of the states and their rulers. The reader will see in these simple words the approval given by the Pope to the Southern Confederacy, and also his recognition to Jefferson Davis as the President of the Confederate States, when in fact the rebellious Confederacy was at war with the elected government of Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, that's right.
Antichrist Pope Pius's letter to Jefferson Davis was printed in the Richmond newspaper with the intended effect of getting the Irish Catholics in the Union Army to desert, which is exactly what happened. U.S. Army Brigadier General Thomas M. Harris writes, quote, "This letter of the Pope to Jefferson Davis, couched in such courteous and loving terms, and showing so clearly that his empathy was with the Southern cause, as well understood by his, i.e. the Pope's, loyal and faithful subjects all over the North. Roman Catholic officers in the Northern Union Army began to resign, rank and file," unquote. Yeah, this book that we were just quoting from is from Brigadier General Thomas M. Harris, Rome's Responsibility for the Assassination of Abraham Lincoln. And this is a book you as an American should surely get if you have any interests in really understanding the American Civil War from the point of view of a Protestant, I can tell you. Mm-hmm. It was after this letter of the Pope was published that the Irish Roman Catholic Federal troops deserted in their droves after seeing a newsprint that their quote-unquote Holy Father, Antichrist Pope Pius IX, has dispatched an official communique of support to Confederate President Jefferson Davis, addressing him as illustrious and honorable President of the Confederate States of America. We call again upon a witness of impeccable character and with personal knowledge of the treasonous events, Brigadier General Harris, a member of the 1865 Military Commission or Tribunal that tried and convicted 8 conspirators for the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Brigadier Harris wrote, 72% of Irish Catholics deserted the Union Army compared to just 5 to 10% of each of the various other nationalities that made up Lincoln's soldiers. Of the 144,000 Irishmen that enlisted, 104,000 deserted. Union General George Meade allowed Confederate General Robert E. Lee's defeated army, which had lost half its soldiers, to escape, thus prolonging the bloody war. And this reminds me of the same thing that Eisenhower did after the landing of the Allies in the Second World War in Normandy at the Battle of the Bulge, where they let 150,000 German soldiers slip away, and by that prolonged the war for at least another year at the time. So there's nothing new under the sun. Hitler did the same when he didn't capture 150,000 British soldiers on the strands of France in the beginning of the Second World War. He let them escape to England back. Yeah. So this is not something that has not been there before. As the Bible says, there's nothing new under the sun. Yeah.
No.
So
there's nothing new.
In the Cedar Run battle between Union General Pope and Confederate General Stonewall Jackson in 1862, Pope landed on the peninsula with nearly 100,000 men and was later reinforced with 158,000 men. Yet he left with only about 55,000 living. That is deliberate sabotage. You know, I just want to make this little comment because we are speaking here about the killing of 200,000 men. More than 200,000 men. The point is that we have to understand that in the outcome of the Civil War in America, the Roman Catholic Church always was the gainer because it was most of all Protestants that killed each other. And that's the same that you had with the First World War, when the Protestants of America came over and killed the Protestants in Germany.
Oh,
and
yeah.
with the Second World War, you had the same.
Yep.
This is always reminding me of that little quote that you can read in the book from Samuel C. Gibb, An Understandable History of the Bible,
Oh, yeah.
where he says, the Roman Catholic Church is just that guy who tells his two lad, you fight and he fight, and I hold your coats. That's the position of the Roman Catholic Church you have always in these wars.
Mm-hmm.
And then watching their enemies devour each other. And it always works. It always works.
Mm-hmm.
Our second witness, the author continues, is Dr. William P. Grady, who writes that when the retreating forces from Confederate General Lee's debacle at Gettysburg in Pennsylvania, July 1863, should have been crushed on the banks of the swollen Potomac River, Lincoln's Roman Catholic Union Army commander, General George Meade, conveniently diverted a third of his army to securing New York City during the draft riots perpetrated by the rampaging parishioners of Catholic Archbishop John Hughes. Next, we call upon the first-hand testimony contained in the official records of the Union Confederate navies in the War of the Rebellion, hereafter official Confederate Navy records called. There we find many pages containing original correspondence between the Antichrist, Pope Pius IX, and the Confederate Catholic President Jefferson Davis, in which is evidenced the Pope's unequivocal approval and support for the Confederate cause. See, for example, pages, and now we add some pages here, which is not so interesting for us to read right now.
Right.
And importantly, there is a letter dated January 15th, 1864, in which Dudley Mann, Jefferson Davis' special envoy to Rome, or you could also say his ambassador to the Holy See, reports to the Confederate president that, quote, in all intelligent British circles, our recognition by the Pope is considered formal and complete, and the influence of that measure, i.e., the Pope's apparently neutral letter, is of incalculable value in our behalf. Unquote. Now there's a list of papers that we see here, and I'm not going to read that because it's a little bit smeared in my book.
Right.
And I have trouble with my eyes to read it anyway, but probably Brett can put that up on the video and people can try to make something out of it. It's just from the State Department correspondence with diplomatic agents of 1864. They just put an excerpt of that out here in the book. Just one more moment to confirm how very well researched this book is. Now, even more significant is the information recorded in pages 963, 964 of the official Confederate Navy records. It is the original of an earlier letter of the said A. Dudley Mann, dated November 23rd, 1863, regarding his audience with the Pope and Jesuit Cardinal Antonelli. Mann's lengthy letter states, in the very first paragraph, quote, I will state that my reception at the Vatican was cordial in the broadest sense of the word, and that my mission has been as successful as President Confederate Jefferson Davis could have desired it to be. On the 19th, I had a second interview with Cardinal Antonelli. I had intended it to be of short duration, but he became so interested in the communications which I made to him that he prolonged it for nearly an hour. He took the occasion to inform me that the commandment that the acting representative of the United States, i.e., the real representative of the United States sent by President Lincoln, had obtained an interview of him the day before to remonstrate against the facilities afforded by the government of the Holy See to quote-unquote rebels for entering and bidding in Rome. And he, the cardinal, promptly replied that he intended to take such quote-unquote rebels under his special protection. protection, unquote.
Yeah.
Sorry, just had to cough there.
Sure.
This letter from man continues with these telling words, revealing the true purpose and the intended effect of the Pope's apparently peaceful and benign letter. I just have to get up and open the window because
Sure.
that maybe will help my nose slip free, because when I can't breathe anymore, it's really hard to talk
Sure.
and read.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm sitting with my head outside the window now. Let's read. From this peaceful and benign letter. Quote, I can form no conjecture when the letter of His Holiness to the President, meaning Jefferson Davis, will be ready for delivery. As soon as I receive it, I will endeavor to prevail upon him, meaning the Pope, to have the correspondence published in the official journal here. Its information would be powerful upon all Catholic governments in both hemispheres. Thus, I am exceedingly hopeful that before spring, our independence, means from the United States Union, would be generally acknowledged. Russia alone will probably stand aloof until we are recognized by the North, the Union, and Lincoln, that is. So far, my mission to Rome has not found its way into the newspapers. I will keep it secret in order that the publication of the letter, i.e. the Pope, may, from its unexpectedness, cause a salutary sensation everywhere when it occurs. I have reason to believe that what I have said in high places in relation to Irish immigration to New York were words in season. Unquote. Well, when he mentions here high places, I cannot help of thinking of Ephesians chapter 6, that we have to deal with a spiritual warfare, and we fight against corruption in high places, right?
Absolutely.
Now, the author says, did you get that? The same that I always say when I read an important sentence. Did you get it? Or read it again. Read it again. Let it sink in. If the Pope's letter, the subject of Dudley Mann's letter above, was a neutral and benign communique, then why would Mr. Mann, Jefferson Davis' envoy to the Pope, say the letter would be powerful upon all Catholic governments in both hemispheres? Or that I will keep it secret that may cause a salutary sensation everywhere. Yet, he later calls it a benign event. Such designing intent of the Pope's letter of quote-unquote peace. Not two. There was a secret purpose in high places. Again, we read a little excerpt from, I think this letter is here. Do I see it correct? It is dated Rome, November 21st, 1863. Sir, I confidently trust that my notes 66 and 67, giving detailed accounts of my audience with the Sovereign Pontiff and of my interview with the Cardinal Secretary of State, will have been in your possession for some days previous to the arrival of this. Lest, however, they may have been delayed on their way to their destination, I will state that my reception at the Vatican was cordial with the broadest sense of the word, and that my mission has been as successful as the President would have possibly desired it to be. On the 19th, I had a second interview with Cardinal Antonelli. As for Cardinal Antonelli, was what you can call the foreign minister of the Vatican, and he had a meeting with the American ambassador to the Vatican, to the Holy See, if you want it. Yeah? And that, by the way, also is the reason why the Americans, after the Civil War, in 1867, if I'm not mistaken, stopped all how do they say that? What's the right word here, Brett? They broke the political connections with the Vatican.
Would it be correspondence?
No, not correspondence. It's just it's the same stuff that's going on right now with Russia. Where they pull out all their
diplomatic ties,
diplomatic relations. Yes, thanks. That was what I was looking for.
Right.
Sometimes I just can't come to the right word.
No problem.
So that's why that's why America broke all diplomatic relations in 1867 with the Vatican, and they were just restored by what I yesterday already called one of the biggest traitor presidents the United States ever had in 1981 by Ronald Reagan. Who installed the first ambassador to the Holy See again. By the way, who was a Jesuit and Knight of Malta.
Yeah, that's right.
So, continue in the book then. The above scan, what I just read to you, from November 21st, 1863, is part of an earlier letter from Mann to Jefferson Davis regarding Cardinal Antonelli and the Pope and their support for the cause of the Confederate South. The most conclusive document of all is page 973 of the official Confederate Navy records, a letter dated December 9th, 1863, from the said Dudley Mann to J.P. Benjamin, Secretary of State for the Confederate South at Richmond, Virginia, regarding the Pope's letter quoted at the opening of this chapter in response to an earlier letter from Jefferson Davis. Mann's correspondence about the Pope's letter reads, in pertinent part, quote, Sir, the Cardinal Secretary of State, Antonelli, Secretary of State for Rome, officially transmitted to me yesterday the answer of the Pope to the President. This communication, the Pope's letter, is a positive recognition of our government. It is addressed to the illustrious and honorable President of the Confederate States of America. Unquote. Did they ever teach you that in history lesson in school, Brett?
Yeah, right. No, we never heard about this interesting Catholic history. No.
So the interesting thing to me, and that is something that is, not only interesting, but sometimes even surprising, is that the government of the United States of America, as we know, George Washington was led by Illuminati, means was led by Jesuits, was a Freemason and adhered to the Jesuits. Yeah. And that was the government of the North of the United States of America. Well, what I just don't understand is how did ever Abraham Lincoln make it to become the American president without the backing of Rome? Because what we've just read here is an absolutely confirmation that Rome backs the southern government that the North never accepted. So to me, it is just a little bit hard to understand.
It is.
How Abraham Lincoln ever could be even in the possibility of becoming president of the United States of America. That in itself must have been a miracle.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I think so. But once in a while those happen.
Yeah.
Divine providence, maybe? I don't know, what we think of as divinity in this world, it hardly even exists, perhaps. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like there's much divinity in this world, Jörg.
Yeah. But okay, now let's continue reading here. Mann's letter continues, quote, Thus we are acknowledged by as high an authority as this world contains, his reference to the Pope. I congratulate you. I congratulate the President. I congratulate his cabinet. In short, I congratulate all my true-hearted countrymen and countrywomen upon this benign event, i.e., the Pope's carefully worded letter. He concludes with these words, revealing the intended effects of the Pope's cloak and dagger letter. Quote, "The document is in the Latin language, as are all documents prepared by the Pope. I cannot risk its capture at sea, and therefore I shall retain it until I can convey it with entire certainty to the President. It will adorn the archive of our country," meaning the Confederate Southern States, "in all coming time. The example of the sovereign pontiff, if I am not much mistaken, will exercise a salutary influence upon both the Catholic and Protestant governments of Western Europe. Humanity will be aroused everywhere to the importance of early emulation, i.e., the lead given by the Pope in acknowledging the Southern Rebellion." Unquote. Now read Mann's letter of December 9th, 1863 to J.P. Benjamin, and always keep in mind, this man is the official representative, the ambassador of the United States to the Holy See. So let's see if I can read that here. "The Cardinal Secretary of State, Antonelli, officially transmitted to me yesterday the answer of the Pope to the President. In the very direction of this communication, there is a positive recognition of our government. It is addressed to the illustrious and honorable Jefferson David, President of the Confederate States of America. Thus, we are acknowledged by as high an authority as this world contains to be an independent power of the earth." Now, let me just interrupt here. I hope that everybody just gets the importance of this sentence. And please, Brett, my voice is really leaving me. Read this sentence once again, loud and clear. This last sentence, that everybody gets it. What the ambassador of the United States of America to the Holy See says in this sentence.
Thus, we are acknowledged Thus, we are acknowledged by as high an authority as this world contains to be an independent power of the earth. Unquote.
Isn't this fulfillment of Revelation 13? The first beast gives power to the second beast.
Yes. Yes.
We are acknowledged as by high an authority as this world contains. Well, I'm sorry, the highest power that this world contains is our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the one who created it all. Because without him, nothing was created, nothing was made that was made. So whenever you refer to the highest authority that is in this world, that the world contains, it must be God. But he is conferring to the little God in Rome, to the Pope.
Yep.
And what is he saying, actually? We are the Southern States of America. We are acknowledged by this authority in the world to be an independent power of the earth. So we are given the keys that the Vatican has. We are given the power of the second beast of Revelation 13. This is what I read from the sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Can you agree with me, or
yeah,
am I too far?
I always think of, they call, the papacy calls them the keys, but I think of the singular key, the key to the bottomless pit that was given in Revelation. I always think of that, and whenever I hear the keys, I think of it's the key to the bottomless pit. I mean, everything about this institution, they're so incredibly pomp, and their ceremonies and everything they do, and to make this statement, I mean, it's such blasphemy. I mean, this is the little horn of Daniel, right? Yeah, that's what it is. And then, the Pope wears that little beanie cap with that tiny little thing popping out. I always think of the little horn whenever I see that white cap of his with the little tiny little thing popping up out of his top of his head. I always think, yep, little horn.
This turns out to be a much more interesting reading than I first assumed it would be.
Oh, it always is when you're dealing with the suppressed history of the American Civil War. I've always found that I can't make it too far because I always get hung up on how wicked it is.
Oh.
I mean,
So
this is the problem with the wars, Yerk, is that it's just nothing but bloodshed. It's so cruel. Yeah.
What we are actually witnessing in these letter of man, that is what people today actually would call treason.
Yeah, that's right.
Nothing more and nothing less.
That's right.
Okay. But the letter still continues. But I think, Brett, that you should put out that sentence in big letters in your video when you produce that.
Okay, cool. Mm-hmm.
I really think this is this sentence of great importance.
Yeah, I'll just put this scan up on the screen so everyone can read this.
At least that's my opinion of it.
Yeah, I agree. It's good. It's really important.
So the letter continues. I congratulate you. I congratulate you. I congratulate the president. I congratulate his cabinet, in short. I congratulate all my true-hearted countrymen and countrywomen upon this benign event. The hand of the Lord has been in it, and eternal glory and praise be to his holy and righteous name, which is in that case Pope Pius IX. The document is in the Latin language, as are all documents prepared by the Pope. I cannot incur the risk of its capture at sea. I have the honor to be, sir, respectfully, your obedient servant, A. Dudley Mann. These letters of Dudley Mann, special envoy to Rome, and again, let me assure you, special envoy to Rome is just a fancy word for ambassador to the Holy See, were taken from the government archives of the official Confederate Navy records. They tell a far different story of the Civil War to that famously taught in the history books, depicted in the movies and television documentaries. They confirm the allegations of Charles Chiniquy that we shall look up in the next chapter concerning the involvement of the Pope and the Jesuits in the American Civil War. As Abraham Lincoln said, quote, "From the very beginning of our Civil War, there has been not a secret but a public alliance between the Pope and between the Pope of Rome and Jeff Davis." Unquote. They lost the war but seized control of the United States. When the Civil War ended, everyone blamed Jeff Davis and the Confederates, while the Jesuits slipped away unnoticed under the dark shadow of the papacy. These facts are testimony to the dangers of Romanism in the midst of its enemies, those nations that do not accept her supremacy. In any nation where it is found, Romanism is a cancer in various stages of malignancy, a worm that slowly eats away the root of democratic government. As Professor Sarpi, a man once held in honor at Rome, said, quote, "The Roman Catholic Church is a political conspiracy, a gigantic ecclesiastical conspiracy," unquote. Said the historian J. Wayne Lawrence. Scrap that. Said the historian J. Wayne Lawrence, quote, "We recognize in the Roman Catholic priesthood and the Jesuit Brotherhood two distinct political organizations united in purpose and using religion as a mask for political purpose, as they always have done in all ages and all countries." Bam!
Yeah.
Wow, I'm sorry that I can't scream right now, but you should see me. I'm sitting here leaning on the board outside of the window, trying to grasp a little fresh air, and I'm trying to scream from the top of my lungs, but my voice just fails me. This sentence is so important that we just read here. This puts it all together. When you read this one sentence, you don't need any book about the Jesuits anymore.
No.
We recognize in the Roman Catholic priesthood and the Jesuit Brotherhood two distinct political organizations united in purpose and using religion as a mask for political purpose, as they always have done in all ages and all countries. Amen to that. That man spoke the truth.
That's right.
Absolutely. Thank you, J. Wayne Lawrence.
Yep. Crisis in America is the name of the work that comes from. Yeah, in the footnote here.
After the war, the Jesuits had the 14th Amendment ratified on July 21st, 1868, thereby making the states, quote, subordinated and derivative, unquote, and the federal government paramount and dominant, thus reversing the origin and character of the United States citizenship. To quote the words of the U.S. Supreme Court, under the 14th Amendment, the Bill of Rights and the common law were no longer rights of United States citizenship. Then, in 1873, in the slaughterhouses cases, the Supreme Court confirmed these changes to the fundamental rights of the people. The court again confirmed that the Bill of Rights was no longer part of the rights of the American people. Has ever anybody told you that when you went to school, that your so loved Bill of Rights isn't worth the paper it's written on anymore?
That's right.
That's what we just read here. And this is why President George W. Bush could allow himself to call the Constitution just a GD piece of paper. That's why. The opening of the way for the introduction of canon law into the American legal system. This is what we've just read about. So now we have what the Jesuits call judicial supremacy, the opening of the way for the introducing of Roman Catholic canon law into the American legal system. And here we go, and the people are always afraid about, the Muslims and Sharia law, how bad that is. And I have no idea that they are screwed front, back, top, and bottom by Roman Catholic canon law in the meantime.
Hundreds of years ago. This is a long, long time ago. Yeah, that's right. You nailed it.
A situation not too improbable. A situation not too improbable now that we have the U.S. Supreme Court dominated 5-4 by ultra-conservative Roman Catholics, 2 of whom may well be Jesuits, John Roberts and Antonin Scalia. At the time of the writing of this book, it is 5-4. Now it is 6-9, if not 7-2, and the remaining 2 are also coming from the Council on Foreign Relations.
Yeah.
So it says here, an associate Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall said on May 6, 1987, so more recently, in his bicentennial speech, quote, while the Union survived the Civil War, the Constitution did not.
That's right. That's right, Yerk. That's how we got Washington, D.C.
Wow.
Yeah. The District of Columbia.
As a result of this legal coup, today we have the Jesuit-led Patriot Act, masterminded by the Roman Catholic Jesuit Professor Viet Dean of Georgetown University Law School. I mentioned that already before.
Yeah.
Truly, the Jesuits can now say of America as did Julius Caesar to the Roman Senate after his victory over Zila, Turkey, Veni, Vidi, Vici. I came, I saw, I conquered.
Wow, that is an amazing chapter here, Yerk.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all out of breath. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Thank you very much for making it through. And we got the next chapter, we continue along the same lines. Abraham Lincoln, the Jesuits, and the American Civil War, chapter 29.
Oh, there's the quote that I mentioned in the beginning.
Ah, yes.
The Civil War would never have been possible without the sinister influence of the Jesuits.
Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln states on April 14th, 1865. That's just no, he doesn't state that.
That's when he died. I think
that's the day that he died.
Yeah, that's the.
Anyway, let's not take anything away of this reading that we just did. There are a few key sentences that we just read in this book, and these key sentences should be highlighted. I hope that, Brett, you can bring them out very well in the video. These are things that you should actually make a big, how do you say it, a billboard from.
Yeah, no doubt.
And hang that all over your town.
Yeah, right.
If you are a patriot to the United States of America, why are you a patriot to a country that you don't even understand?
Yeah. Yeah, the history is incredible, Jörg, no doubt. And the people here are, maybe some scattered around, are aware of more of the history, but it doesn't seem that way.
What we just read, Brett, everything that we just read was just an absolute confirmation of the title of the chapter, a coup d'etat.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because what's a coup d'etat? A coup d'etat is a rebellious overthrowing of a legitimate government with an illegitimate government. A coup d'etat was what Perón did in 1943 with his generals down there in Argentina. That was a coup d'etat.
Yeah.
Okay? And this is exactly the same thing. A Jesuit coup d'etat. Sometimes you have to read the whole chapter to understand the title of it. This is wonderful.
Yeah.
This was a wonderful reading. And even I learned much, much more.
Yeah. It's I wish I was a little more awake. But no problem, Jörg. And I had a good sleep. So the only
not during my reading, I hope.
Yeah. No. Last night, I meant to say.
I'm just kidding.
No. I was thinking, you had mentioned this book by Justin Dewey Fulton.
Yes. Washington and the Lap of Rome.
Washington and the Lap of Rome. There's another book he has called America. It's called Rome in America, I think it's called. Yeah. And I had found that book online doing a search the other day, and I was floored by some of the chapters in there, Jörg. I think I sent that one to you too. Do you remember that book?
As a physical book, you mean?
No. As a PDF the other day.
Oh, that's possible. I don't know.
Yeah, there's some really good chapters in there. I was thinking that might be a good read for sure.
What's the title of that book?
Rome in America. It's the opposite of the title here from Time Magazine, America in Rome. It's flipped around. It's Rome in America by Justin Dewey Fulton. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, I don't have that here.
Oh, it's on the internet. I have it here somewhere.
That's okay. Let's first wrap this broadcast up, Brett.
I just thought I'd mention it because, yeah,
that's okay. That's
sure,
okay.
Please, let's do it.
My voice really left me, so I hope that everybody was able to understand what I was reading.
You sound much better now, actually, but your voice left you, so we should finish up.
Yeah, I at least enjoyed very, very much reading this part of Codeword Barbelon. The American history always was interesting to me, and especially since I knew about the Jesuit founding of the government of the United States. And this, again, shed another light on that. And even though that I already thought that I knew much of American history. I know much more now when I read this, and I want to thank P.D. Stewart to bring that out in his book, Codeword Barbelon. And all these documents, you know, you can always say, well, this is conspiracy theory. You can shout that until the cows come home, as Tom Friess always likes to say.
Yeah,
I don't care. I don't care how much you shout that. But when you get this book and you will see the sources in there, why don't you, for once, sit yourself down in your damn car, right to the place where these documents can be found, and go to the libraries and check on yourself, instead of speaking of, we are teaching conspiracy theories like many people do. And with this, I will just shut up now and save my voice for our Bible study later on.
Very good, Jörg.
Thanks for watching and listening and commenting. And I hope, I hope really, I pray for all to see you back when we read chapter 29, Abraham Lincoln, the Jesuits, and the American Civil War. We are not done yet exposing the beast of Revelation 13, the first beast, which is the Vatican, and how the United States of America became the second beast of Revelation 13. Thanks for the invitation, Brett, and I see you later. Until next time, Maranatha.
Thanks for the reading, Jörg. It was a wonderful chapter today, and I'll be looking forward to the next one. And we'll see everybody then, and I'll hopefully be a little more awake next time. So catch up with you then. Bye-bye.
That for the first time in human history, for the first time in all of human history, almost all of mankind is politically awake. And these new and old major powers face still yet another novel reality, in some respects unprecedented. And it is that while the lethality of their power is greater than ever, their capacity to impose control over the politically awakened masses of the world is at a historical low. I once put it rather pungently, and I was flattered that the British Foreign Secretary repeated this, as follows. Namely, in earlier times, it was easier to control a million people. Literally, it was easier to control a million people than physically to kill a million people. Today, it is infinitely easier to kill a million people than to control a million people. It is easier to kill than to control.
We're at the very beginning stages of a very brutal and bloody conflict. And I believe that we've come horribly off track in the years since the fall of the Soviet Union. And we're starting now in the 21st century, which I believe strongly is a crisis both of our church, a crisis of our faith, a crisis of the West, and a crisis of capitalism.
His son Jesus is here in our midst. His bride, the church, is honored to host an event affirming the dignity of the human person, the sacredness of all human life.
I think Russia is no longer a communist state, first of all. That's very important to realize. It hasn't yet defined itself, however, effectively as a democracy. It is still uncertain.
We're at the very beginning stages of a very brutal and bloody conflict, of which if the people in this room and the people in the church do not bind together and really form what I feel is an aspect of the church militant, if the people in this room and the people in the church do not bind together and really form what I feel is an aspect of the church militant, to really be able to not just stand with our beliefs, but to fight for our beliefs against this new barbarity that's starting, that we will literally eradicate everything that we've been bequeathed over the last 2,025 years.
You didn't mention the president by name, but it was hard not to conclude that that's who you were referring to. Is that fair?
I was certainly referring to the threats that we are now facing with this stated goals of this administration, which would upset the last 70 years of a new world order, which was established after World War II. 70 years based on human rights, respect for the law, free trade, all of the things, aspects of this world order that took place after one of the most horrific, terrible wars in history, and I'm for maintaining it.
We are grateful to be citizens of one nation under God, who acclaim this evening that in God we trust. Bless our two candidates, our benefactors, and those whom the L. Smith Foundation has been honored to serve for 7 decades. Guide us safely home, both this evening and for all eternity, through Christ our Lord. Amen.